Well, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us for this edition of Making Sense. Are you thinking of starting your own business? Well, in this Making Sense episode, we're joined by Beth Miller from the Cadillac Area Chamber of Commerce and Alex, of course, to talk about launching a small business here in Northern Michigan. From planning and financing to local resources and tips for success, this conversation is hopefully really going to be packed with practical advice for everyone that thinks they may be the next great entrepreneur. Beth, Alex, thanks so much for joining us. All right, so let's start off with the beginning, because that's often a good place to start. What steps should be taken if we're thinking about establishing a new business?
So there's a lot of steps to take with starting a new business. And I think one of the prefaces that people kind of make the mistake on is they have an idea and they're like, we've got this product, we know it'll sell, we can just hurry up and get a little bit of our savings and get started. But there's a lot of little pieces to that where you have to consider the product, the market, the overhead. You have to have employees. How many employees are you going to have? Are you going to have partners? It's kind of like when you do that thing when you're young where you have to explain how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And then at the end, you've realized you forgot 20 steps in doing it. You really have to bear down and kind of think about all of those details. So it's kind of like making a giant list to start where you have to think about your funding and the long-term effects and your accounting needs and where you're going to have your business. So there's a lot of little pieces that you kind of have to think about for the whole picture.
Because Beth, I imagine that there are a lot of great ideas that actually turn out to be bad businesses. And there are just because they don't think about all those things. When a business fails, it may not necessarily be the product or whatever service they're providing. It may be the execution of those little details that can make all the difference. Is that accurate?
Yep. You get in and you're like, I'm going to run this family-owned business, and you can be open 5 days a week, but then it quickly turns into more, and you didn't think about the legal aspects you have to follow, or things like our ESTA laws that changed this year, such as having to offer, employees more time off and PTO. All of those kind of come into your overhead of owning and operating a business that isn't always anticipated. But the good thing is that we have lots of resources that can help go through that.
Yeah, if you're starting a business, if you've got that great idea, the key is to bring in people that maybe this isn't the first business that they've started, I imagine. All right, so great resources. Who do we talk to? Where do you start? What's that first phone call when you're like, this is a good idea?
Well, although it might be Forest Area Credit Union or other banks like that, I'm going to be a little biased and say, talk to your local Chamber of Commerce. We kind of act as that front desk instead of having to Google something and get 20 answers that have you filter through it. You usually can go to your local chamber and we can help connect you to those people and resources that you need depending on the business that you're starting. If you're looking to do something remote, it's going to be a lot different than if you're going to try and, redo a brownfield and start a manufacturing business. So.
All right, Beth, I'm gonna hold on a second, Alex.
Yep.
Beth, we all know the phrase Chamber of Commerce. What is a Chamber of Commerce?
Well, we like to use the phrase, if you've seen one chamber, you've only seen one chamber, because it is different.
I like that.
In every community, as some are just focusing on events to bring in tourism and things, but other areas like Cadillac example, we do have a really good visitors bureau, and we have an economic development branch, Alliance for Economic Success. So we're able to strictly focus on the needs of our businesses. So we're made up of business members. We're our own nonprofit 501c6. So we're paid by the businesses to do whatever work they need to drive their business forward. So in our instance, we help you get started. If you want to get that food truck and you don't know where to start and get your business plan, we can connect you to those people. If you're mid-tier and you're just looking for networking and getting to know your community better, we have leadership development programs and we have networking events. If you're, a manufacturer and you're looking to get a little bit more help and maybe need some support on legislative issues, we're there to help and guide you through that process. So we're kind of your one-stop shop for driving business forward, depending on what that needs are, because we're your direct connection to the community that you're in and those resources.
It feels like fuel on a fire on getting that business started. You've already got some people that maybe have walked down that path a little bit and can help you along with that. All right, Alex, I'm sorry I interrupted you. You were going to say.
No, you're good. All I was going to say is I'm one of the partners that the chamber will likely connect you with is some type of an attorney. And I think that that's an important thing to think about, because I don't think a lot of people really think about that. They just think, I'm going to start a business, we're going to jump in. But as you think about what type of business you want to create, whether it's sole proprietor, DBA, a corporation, there's a lot of things that you can do on your own and you could probably figure it out. But if you start including other people into that business as owners, you're probably going to want to have some documents that are drafted that can actually be legally binding versus chicken scratch on a napkin. And so there's a lot of things that you have to think about as you begin to work through putting a business together. And that would definitely be one of them, is what type you're going to have, and then what resources, to Beth's point, do you need to utilize, with an attorney and a CPA being high on that list. So that way they can work in line. Your CPA understands what you're going to be doing, what your business is, and how they can be helpful from a tax perspective. And then that attorney drafting those documents accordingly. So those are some big things. And then the licensing, which Beth can probably talk about that more than I can, but licensing from a LARA perspective for the state, what documents you need to submit. There's a lot that goes into that, which again, all can be done without attorneys, but highly recommend from my perspective to definitely bring those guys into the picture.
So many things beyond that great idea. I mean, yes. Especially and starting off, I imagine that there are a lot of, when a lot of businesses start, money's tight, right? Every dollar is marked for something, whether that's rent, product, employees, or anything like that. But it sounds like spending a little money to get that accountant, get that attorney, spending that money up front sounds like save you some headaches and could save your business in the long run. Is that accurate?
100%.
All right. So what resources are available to small and new business owners to help with that? Because if you're a small or a new business and an owner, chances are you may also be ringing the cash register. You may also be making the flyers. You may be doing a lot of different things. They need help. So what resources are available to them out there?
So we have a lot of local resources. One of our biggest ones, we have the Small Business Development Center, SBDC. They have networking and liaisons all over the state, right here locally and stuff too. And they can walk you step by step. If you are like, I have this business idea, I need to hone it in, I need a business plan, and I don't know where to start, we usually recommend them first. But there's a lot of other resources out there, such as SCORE, that has people that have done the business thing to get mentorship on. There is, we've got, if you're looking for what property and stuff, we've got commercial bankers such as like the Beth Miller group that are commercial lenders that are working locally to find those avenues and locations for you. But one of the other things, especially from a funding standpoint, and I'm sure Alex can talk a little bit more on this, is your local banks and institutions or development financial institutions and stuff. You have a lot of different resources there that are also aiding in that. So Alex can probably talk a little on that.
Yeah, Alex, so talk to us about the cash side, the money side.
Yeah, so a lot of the local institutions provide funds for businesses from a funding perspective, from a loan perspective. I mean, we do have resources available to us as well. There are some financial institutions that are CDFI. What that means is, I don't remember what it stands for, but basically we have grants and stuff available that people can use as a startup for small businesses. There's other third parties that we partner with that maybe they can do a down payment for a business, and then we come in and do the back end lending for the rest of that loan. The SBA, the Small Business Administration, they can help out with some of the funding, and we've partnered with them on deals in the past. So there is resources available from a funding perspective that are available. We're not here necessarily for entrepreneur side, but if there's a business that we've got, there's a business plan, there's projections, there's financials, all that stuff. We're excited to talk about it, what we can do to help out, and we're excited to help people's dreams come alive.
And there's other avenues too, like talking to our like MEDC, which is Michigan Economic Development Corporation. We have Venture North. We have a lot of local resources and partners. If you're trying to figure out, what is the market analysis for the area that you're in with the business, plan that you have. There's a lot of different opportunities, and normally your chamber can help you connect you to those different ones.
Boy, and let me ask you this: when somebody is going and searching for funding, they got this great idea. If they've done their homework and they have resources where they can say, well, I've talked to the chamber and here's the market analysis, and it's more than just words. Here's, they have a PowerPoint, or they've clearly done their homework. How much easier is it to get funding if you've put in the sweat labor of understanding the market and having a business plan, as opposed to just having a great idea?
Significantly easier from our perspective. And that's what I'm talking about when I say entrepreneur, someone that walks in and just says, I have this idea, and then they expect us to kind of put the rest of the pieces together. Like, we'll help, but if someone walks in with a business plan, and all that stuff that's ready to rock and roll, it's going to be a lot easier for us to justify that funding to give to that individual, because they have put that sweat equity in. They understand that it's more than just an idea. It's going to be boots on the ground making things happen. And so commercial lending is significantly different than getting an auto loan. Or an auto loan, you need the credit score, you need the down payment, you need the history of having income. Commercial lending is a whole different, it's a relationship lending. So we have to make sure that we have that relationship. We know that what you're going to do is going to be successful, and we want to invest into them. So they put the work in, it helps develop that relationship.
Having never run a business and never tried to get a business loan, I'm just curious, how competitive is that kind of funding? Is it hard to get?
If you put the work in and you talk with the right individuals at the financial institution, and the plan makes sense,
right, then
you will likely be able to get funding.
Okay.
But if there's a business plan that doesn't make sense, or if it's risky, it may be less likely for us to be able to invest in that. So there's a lot of factors that play into that. But if you have your stuff together, you will likely get funding. It just depends.
It's doable.
On yes,
it's doable. That shouldn't be the limiting factor of I'm not even going to try this.
Correct.
Okay. Beth, is it hard to start a new business? We kind of jumped right forward to that. Is that a big challenge?
I'm going to say yes, because I think a lot of people think that it's easier, and not that it can't be done, and that it isn't exciting and pay off, but there's a lot of little steps in there, and it's not for the faint of heart, because I think you tend to fail a lot more at first than you plan on it. But you have to keep trying. And what we see a lot of times, the business will start and it takes 2 to 3 years, sometimes more, for it to take off. It doesn't mean that it's not good or that it hasn't started, but a lot of people, if it isn't lucrative in that first 6 months, they're ready to give their hands up and throw it in. And so you do see a lot of turnover, especially in small businesses and our downtowns and things. And you also need a lot of local support and stuff to get that. And we sometimes forget how much support we need to give these small businesses. So yeah, I would say it's a little bit more difficult than initially anticipated.
For all those people that are like, that's it, I'm quitting my job, I can't stand my boss or these people anymore, I'm going to go out on my own. That motivation doesn't last for very long. Once you see just actually how much work and how much you need to do, I imagine that can be eye-opening. Are there enough resources, and what other resources are available to folks in Northern Michigan that may want to be considering starting something like this?
I think that people forget it's not just, about funding and finding those lawyers and stuff too. It's about credibility. It's about building those relationships in the community that you're in. It's about mentorship. So as we're looking for those fundings and CPAs and business plans, you also need to be kind of showing up and giving back to your community. They need to know who you are, And I think that's a huge piece that sometimes is overlooked. Like if you're coming to a new area, I'm going to give a shout out to Forest Area. They just opened the branch recently in Cadillac. And the first thing they did months ago, we've been dealing with them for almost a year. They came to the chamber first and they wanted to get involved in the community. And so they've been planting their roots here well before they even built their building. And I think that's made a huge difference.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, Beth. And it has. We felt it just being more welcomed because we laid those roots out ahead of time and we have been trying to get more involved. And you'd be surprised how much comes from just networking, how those connections can really drive a business because you can then learn and build those relationships with other people within the community. And then the referrals that happen just naturally help drive that business because there's a good word of mouth that's out there because people trust you, they've had that relationship built, and things will just naturally start to happen.
Is this a good time to start a business in Northern Michigan? Alex, all right, Alex, you're nodding. We'll give Beth a little time to think about that one. Alex, is this a good time to start a business in Northern Michigan?
It's like planting a tree, right? The best time to plant a tree was yesterday, and the second best is today. I think there's never a good time or never a bad time. I think if you have an idea, run with it. Sure, the economy can play a role in a business, but I don't know that needs to be a deciding factor. If you have a good idea, it's going to be successful regardless of the economy, in theory. But I think that anytime, make it happen.
Beth,
I agree with that.
Plant the tree whenever you get the opportunity.
Yes, absolutely.
Beth, you agree?
You never know. And the other downfalls of different times, might say we're in a rough area. It might be the perfect time for the right business and the right mindset.
Does a new business have to be completely different for it to be successful? Does it have to be like something we've never seen before? Or if somebody's just like, I think I can do it better. Do those work in Northern Michigan? If somebody is sitting at home watching this being like, well, I kind of have this notion, but it's been done before, should they still explore that option?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think you can have too many. I think competition only helps drive a good, successful economy. So I don't think that you should not do it just because, like a landscaping company, for example, just because there's other ones out there doesn't mean you can't be successful at it. There's enough out there. If you do a good job networking and getting your name out there, you're going to be able to get business. So 100%, there's enough business out there.
And if you're smart about it, and I think one of the things when we're talking about networking, a lot of these businesses that are coming, we have several different coffee shops, several Mexican restaurants, and a lot of them are starting to collaborate. They might be on different ends of town or they've got different target markets that are coming. But instead of realizing that we need to be siloed and we're in competition, they're learning to collaborate. And they're working together on projects or events for downtown and saying, okay, you know what, we've got this and they do this really well. And they're recommending each other and they're supporting each other. And I think it doesn't matter. There's a lot of people coming and going through our areas that we can be supportive of them. It's just on a matter of your stability and how much you want to make it work.
Beth, when you talk to a company that, let's say, is 5 years down the road, okay, and they're doing well, okay, and they started from nothing. 5 years down the road, they're doing well, and you talk to somebody like that, you ask them, or you were to ask them, what's the one thing that you are so grateful you did 5 years ago and stuck with it? Like, what was that key ingredient that you think made the difference and got you to where you are today? What do they tell you?
My biggest thing I always hear is about how involved they are in the community and making those
real. That's it. That's the big thing.
There's a lot of other little pieces, but I would say that over anything else is what they did to market themselves outside of just trying to, market on Facebook and stuff. It's about their connections that they made early on.
Mm-hmm.
Alex?
Yeah, to the point, if we talk, from our business, a credit union, there's other financial institutions out there, right? But how involved you are in the community and how you take care of your customers or members, that's going to be what drives your business. So to the question that you just asked about just because there's one out there already, do you need to go do it? If you're taking care of people, it's going to take care of itself. And I think that's probably the biggest thing. Take care of your community, take care of people.
Yeah. That, and I think growth comes sometimes in smaller steps. People saying, okay, we have this plan and we know eventually we want to do all of this, but not doing it all at one time, adding in something, letting it go for a few months, working through, all of the barriers. And then once you figure that out, then, expanding a little bit more, adding that next thing to the menu. So doing it in a little bit smaller steps, I would say, is the other big thing I hear.
So some hustle and then patience, and then hustle and then patience, right? But you got to hit that window right for this is the right time for us to get a second location or expand what we're offering here or anything like that. You got to time that out right, which I imagine comes back to if you get to that point, that's a good time to come back to your chamber and talk to people or SCORE or people that have gone through that before and be like, am I still like those organizations aren't just there for when you're launching. They're also there for when you're growing or maybe when you're shrinking a little bit. They're there to help. They can help you through all of those things, right?
Yep. Every step of the way, there's going to be something different, and leaning on those mentors and resources and stuff can make a huge, huge difference.
Alex, you agree?
Absolutely. Yep.
Are there organizations maybe not as good as yours, Beth, maybe not as good as yours, Alex, but are there organizations across Northern Michigan in a lot of these communities where they could reach out to their local chamber, something like that? Is that an opportunity for people that are watching in St. Ignace or Sault Ste. Marie or Sheboygan? Do they have those kinds of resources available across Northern Michigan?
Yes, and it may not be that they have a flourishing chamber in every area, but they have someone in their community, whether it's their city or their DDA or prior business owners or, even attorneys or CPAs or local banks. There's people in their community that are willing to have those conversations and look at something from a different angle. Just having more business perspectives in those conversations. They have the resources. There's a lot more resources and stuff available online. Obviously, sometimes those are a little bit harder to navigate, but I strongly believe that there's the resources out there. We just tend to, as business owners and stuff, you get siloed into just trying to survive day by day, that you don't always think about asking for help.
Yeah. Beth, if people want to learn more about what you offer, is there a website? Where can people go learn more and maybe even reach out to you to contact you about what they might be cooking up or what you might have to offer? How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. We have our website is Cadillac.org. You can reach out to us. You can call us. You can email bmiller@Cadillac.org. We're happy to sit, have a conversation, and connect you to, like I said, we have a long list of local community resources that we're happy to connect you to with trying to get your business started or continued or wherever your barrier might be.
And the chamber has an interest in helping people be successful, right? I mean, that's what
our whole mission is based on.
So you may have advice that people don't want to hear, but ultimately it's to be helpful, right?
We don't have all the answers, but we like to connect you to those that do.
Well, it's like Alex and this has come up many times where you're there to help. You're not necessarily there to say yes all the time. You're like a parent. You're not going to say yes all the time if that's dangerous or bad or well for you. But you're there to help and support. So the chamber and a credit union, they're there to, if this is the right situation, they're there to help you maximize that potential.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
and I will say, going into Cadillac, I can attest the Cadillac chamber's been great. They've been great to work with, and they've definitely connected us with a number of people. That's helped us really kind of get that branch off the ground. So for Cadillac specifically, they've been great to us.
Thank you.
So to recap, reach out for help and a sounding board and advice very early on in the process. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Get the pieces in place so that you are setting yourself up to succeed. Contact an attorney if that's appropriate. Get in a good accountant. Get those pieces in place that may seem maybe kind of expensive when you're starting off, but that's a good step to take to ensure you're going to reach your potential. Be patient. Don't grow too fast. Grow at the right time. And if throughout this entire process you have concerns, reach out to organizations like Beth, your local chamber, because there are resources available there to help you wherever you are in your path of your business ownership.
Yes. Fair.
Nailed it on the
Well
head.
stated.
All right. I'm teachable, but like, you break things down into small, manageable chunks. Beth, anything else you want to add today?
No, thank you so much for having me on. And like I said, there's resources wherever you're at. You're not alone. So reach out and ask for guidance and help. There's plenty of people out there willing to help.
Alex, anything else you want to add, sir?
I think Beth nailed it. I'll let it end there.
Well, good luck to all the entrepreneurs out there. Reach out for help. Help's out there. You're looking at two of them right here. So reach out for help and good luck with your businesses. Beth, Alex, thanks so much for joining.
Thanks, Mark.